morning, world.
Good morning. Well, if you guys don't know, I was packing my bags, getting ready to go on vacation. I said it'd be nice to go down to the orange juice state, Florida. But then I found out that the NAACP has warned me not to go down Florida because of all the hatred and visceral violence against people of my color. Brian can't speak on this, so I will. Stay tuned. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. Okay, Cedric, for those that don't know, what does the NAACP stand for?
I was going to say something that my dad says, but that would really be offensive, so I won't say that. It stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Okay, so there's a lot of Cubans and Hispanics and Indians and...
You are talking about the wrong colored people. There's a very specific niche people of color, and that would be me.
But I thought the new lingo was BIPOC, so there's black and there's people of color. So
Yes.
why are they called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People?
Because back when the NAACP started, back in 1909,
Really?
a few
That long
years,
ago?
1909, colored people had one specific definition. That was black people.
Okay.
It was colored people. Other people, Cubans, Hispanics, things like that. Although they were of a different hue and a different color, they didn't fall into the bucket of colored people.
So you're saying the NAACP hasn't caught up with the times.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, what was your dad going to say?
I can't say it.
That doesn't involve the N-word?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But see, you know, and that's
Now I'm really curious.
and that's I'll tell you when we're not recording. I'll tell you then. But
Is your dad a racist?
no, not at all.
Just kidding.
My dad. For those of you who don't know, my dad and my mom are both black. Go figure.
you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive. My dad was actually so black that he actually picked cotton as a child. My mom did some work. My maternal grandmother washed clothes for a white family. So, and for those of you who saw the Ancestry.com video that we did that proved that I am black, and I am so black, I'm like 32% Nigerian. That's how black I am.
But you're also Welsh.
I'm also 1% Wales and stuff. So we want to talk about that a little bit and how I'm sure you guys have heard the story. We're a little late to it. How the NAACP, and I want to read this quick little article from Derek Johnson. He is the president and CEO of the NAACP, and he says, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, the state of Florida has become hostile to Black Americans and in direct conflict with the democratic ideals that our union was founded upon. Two things. For one thing, we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Yes. And that's the word salad that we talk about, the newspeak, referring to George Orwell's 1984, that we talk about how they're trying to change the language. And if they can change it and get this new generation to follow suit, then they don't have to adhere to anything. So that's number one.
Wait. Can I see that quote real quick?
Yeah.
Is that the one I brought up? Because the one I'm reading here, it says... A formal travel notice states Florida is openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ Q plus individuals. So,
Yes.
it's not just for
Black people.
they're going back to the African American. I can't
Yes.
keep the term straight,
Right.
to be quite honest with you. But do you like that they lump you in together with?
And there's so many different avenues we can take with this. First of all, being lumped in with the LGBTQ plus, it has taken on a life of its own. And for those of you who know that, there are gay people who are again being lumped in with the trans people. So they're taking every minority group they have and they're lumping them into this big salad bowl that we're all being abused together.
And then here's what I mean. They're trying to put everybody in boxes. I know I'm not supposed to speak on this, but I just want to speak on this because it's separate. And it goes back to, so they got African Americans, which we're not supposed to use anymore anyway, and yet the NAACP president says that. People of color, I don't know what that means because I have people that are some Swedish. I mean, I'm Swedish, but I also have other things in me.
Right.
My skin is much darker than the Swedish people I know. Mm-hmm. So what does people of color mean? Do you have to have a certain hue? You reach a certain level of melanin and then you consider it a person of color? Or
No,
I don't understand how it works.
And that's part of the game plan that's part of the leftist playbook. And when I say leftist, I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm not talking about JFK's Democrats. I'm talking about the far left. And for those you don't know,
I don't think you have to go that far anymore.
That's true. They use terms that are very vague, and that's done intentionally because you can't describe it. And we always make fun of that classic line from Matt Walsh: "What is a woman?" So you ask, well, what is a person of color? Okay. They keep it vague intentionally so that you can't pinpoint it and you can't nail it down, so they can keep fighting this.
And then I was also watching something. What's his name? Rob. I can't remember. He's a prominent gay black Republican.
Oh, yes. Yes, I know you're talking about.
And he says, talking about lumping people together, lumping lesbian and gay with LGBTQ plus with the trans actually works against you, because it seems that the trans movement is moving people away from the L and G.
Well, we talked about this several weeks ago. It's like you can't even be gay anymore.
Because if you're a feminine guy, they'll just say, no, you must be a girl.
Yeah, you're a 15-year-old boy and you're gay, or you're a 15-year-old girl and you think you're a lesbian. In the guy situation, you're gay. You have this affinity toward other boys and stuff, and they'll tell you, well, time to chop it off. Yeah, you must be trans. It's like, no, I'm gay.
Right.
Yes. I don't want to take it that far.
So it's funny because they combine everybody together, but then they try to pull you apart slowly by saying BIPOC, you're black, indigenous, and person of color, instead of just being, in the old days, colored people, which refer really to black people. Right. But they're trying to, and I think, and this is what I know, well, I mean, I think, but I know it, is because the people who push this are primarily Democrats. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get voters, so they're trying to make that pie as big as they can. So they're just going to include all of this jumble nonsense words and say, look, all you people should vote for us if you're black, indigenous, person of color, LGBTQ, RST.
Well, we all remember when Joe Biden said on the Charlemagne the God show, where he said so boldly, he said,
if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
But back in the day when the NAACP started, I wrote a few notes down. They served an incredible purpose. They're against voting. And we all know that's what the civil rights of the 60s was mainly about. It started out with the undergirding of voting, having equal voting rights, racial violence, employment discrimination, and segregated public facilities. Brian still makes me use a separate bathroom downstairs. I have never used the upstairs restroom a day in my life. We're going to have to talk about that later on. I'm lying.
My poor kids usually uses their bathroom.
Oh, wow. Your kids love me. Oh, they love me that much. So along with the NAACP talking about this being violent against black people, it was just a few months ago, maybe it was a year ago, they tried to perpetuate that lie that Governor DeSantis was pushing the Don't Say Gay bill. Yeah. And nothing can be further from the truth. We're saying just don't push the trans agenda on our children.
If you want to go to a drag show for adults, that's fine.
Yes.
Why are you pushing
just
it on
don't
kids?
Take our kids to it. Right. That's all we've said. And you hear that on all these mainstream media channels, MSNBC, The View. They tell you part of the truth, but they don't want to tell it all because they want you to believe that everyone hates someone who isn't like them.
Right. We should put a disclaimer here. We are going to show a clip from The View. And Cedric found this. Don't blame me.
Brian was asking me, is this referring to Tim Scott?
What are we actually seeing here? What's happening?
Well, isn't he Professor Positive?
Tim Scott.
Unlike Trump, everything's bad. There's doomsday. He's more in the Reagan-esque morning in America. Things are fabulous. And he's also hedging his bets. He doesn't really go out and say he's not pro-choice exactly. Although he did say, when he said that he would vote for anything they put on the table, the Republicans. So he is not pro-choice. And he's one of these guys who, he's like Clarence Thomas, black Republican who believes in pulling yourself by your bootstraps, rather than, to me, understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in this country and other minorities. He doesn't get it, neither does Clarence.
Right.
And that's why they're Republicans.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas syndrome.
Okay, real quick, and again, like Brian said, tongue-in-cheek, the fact that we're actually listening to The View and getting you go to them to learn what not to do or what not to say. And I don't know Joy Behar. I don't know Sunny Hostin. I don't know Oprah
She's
Winfrey.
full of joy.
I don't know that. But I'm going to assume, I have to look it up later, that these women have financial means. But they're going to talk to individuals about what it's like for the black struggle. I'm going to read this real quick.
Well, and just the disrespect. I mean, Clarence Thomas has been a member of the Supreme Court forever. You know, she's like Clarence, like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's belittling. You know, she never did that about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, or Obama. So real quick about Tim Scott. Growing up in a poor single-parent household in North Carolina, South Carolina area, a young Tim Scott grew accustomed to moving every few years, as well as the long hours his mom worked to keep a roof over their heads. After failing 4 classes his freshman year of high school, Tim's path forward was murky at best. But thankfully, he had a mom who stuck with him and met a mentor that showed him the wisdom of conservative principles. So, and we did a video about this a long time ago. To make all black people a monolith and to say that all black people go through the same thing, that's insulting, because that's like saying to Brian that, well, all white people go through the same thing.
It's racist.
It's very racist. Now, and like Brian and I've said before, we both experience similar things of being husbands, of being fathers, of being in the workforce. Those are mutual things that we all go through. If you didn't see our video on Dax, to be a man, go check out that video. And it resonates with all men, regardless if they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, no matter what. And when the left says we want diversity and we want equity, we want inclusion, what they mean is they want diversity of appearance. But as soon as a Tim Thomas, or I'm sorry, as soon as a Tim Scott, a Clarence Thomas, a Larry Elder, anyone like that has a diversity of opinion, all of a sudden they're being ostracized and excommunicated from the black community. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I just love the fact of Joy Behar telling black people that they just don't understand.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Yeah. You don't understand the black. Let me tell you, as a white woman, what the black experience.
And then the way she waited for the response from the audience.
Yeah.
Are you applauding for me? Yeah, I got it right.
Yeah.
I must have got it right.
They're Republican. I've had and I've told you this. I've had people come to me and very seriously say, Cedric, you just don't know what the black experience is like. I was like, oh, it's okay. Please tell me. Why I sit here and listen? It's usually a white person telling me I don't know what the black experience is like. And to some degree I do, but to respectful, I know what the Cedric experience has been like. I don't know what the Michael Jordan experience has been. I don't know what the Oprah Winfrey experience has been. I don't know what the Barack Obama experience has been, because we all, as individuals, not as a group of people, we are all individuals living in this melting pot of what we call America or the world. We all have individual experiences.
Well, that's what it's the same thing when they say, we have white privilege. So say that to the person in, Kentucky, person in Kentucky or Missouri or something, starving on the streets, or they don't have any institutional wealth and they're just as white as me, whiter than me. And for those people, and they wonder why they lose the vote of the middle of the country, because there are people that are hardworking, blue collar, barely making it by, white people, and then to be told that they have some kind of privilege is just funny. And then you look at somebody like Barack Obama, who was, let's be honest, they pushed him up to the top of the Democratic Party because he was black. Because as Joe Biden said,
blackish.
But as Biden said, he's a well-spoken,
well-dressed
black man.
You got the first sort of mainstream African American, who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. That's a storybook, man.
Yeah. Just typical Joe Biden racist stuff. Yeah. But yet, that is why Barack Obama became the head of the Democratic Party. It was literally because of black privilege,
right?
Or like you would say, blackish privilege. Right. So it's silly. Cedric just said it's individuals. So when they throw out these blanket statements that you have white privilege, that what's going on now, I don't know if you saw the guy who was asking for his reparations. The guy stood up and he just came up with a $3 million figure. If I could get it, I'd get it. But
think of all the equipment we could buy if I get kicked down $3 million.
But it's just like by judging people again by groups.
And I wanted to touch real quick what Joe Behar said in the beginning of that little monologue. she's like putting fault on Tim Scott for being this positive, uplifting, motivating, encouraging individual.
Yeah.
So as a parent, as a teacher, when you talk to children and you give them that you can do it, pat on the back and add a boy, she said there's something wrong with that. You tell me, you know what, you're awesome, you're incredible, you're going to make it. Conversely, you should have the black experience where you're being talked down to and say, you know what, you're just not going to make it. You know, because of your skin color, you're just automatically behind the 8 ball. And if you tell anyone that, and this is not some new age stuff or some Christian stuff, I'm saying your brain is a computer. It's garbage in, garbage out. And I'm not saying that all people are going to make it. I mean, if your child is 7 feet tall and weighs 350 pounds, I strongly advise you to encourage that child to pursue basketball and not be a jockey, a horse jockey. It just won't work out. There's some physical limitations we all have that you just can't be anything. But to encourage and to edify and to uplift and to say, you know what, you can do it if you put your mind to it. That's why I love that one movie with Will Smith, the infamous slapper, The Pursuit of Happiness, where he came from a bad area, but he said, you know what, I can outwork everybody else. And anybody can do that, regardless of your race, regardless of your culture, regardless of your gender. You can work just as hard as the person next to you and achieve whatever this country has to offer you.
But you got to remember, Joy Behar comes from the side that their whole platform is Trump bad, Orange Man bad. I mean, that was their platform,
right?
Because they didn't have any positive messages.
And that was Trump's opening statement when he came down the escalator that time, and with the R on his chest, he stood at that podium and he talked to Black America, and he says, "You guys have backed the Democratic Party for years, for decades. How's that going for you?" Mm-hmm. And he basically said,
"What do you have to lose?"
What do you have to lose? Give me a shot. Give me a chance, because what you've been doing hasn't been working, no matter how you look at it. And that's what. And one day I'm going to gather the nerve. I'm going to get Brian to buy a hidden camera to put on my hat, so I can go to a family function and ask my family, pray for me, what has the Democratic Party done for you? Why do you continue to back them?
It's because they're not Republicans, Cedric.
And that's the only reason. But
Republicans, except for, oh wait, this guy was a Republican. Yeah. Republicans are racists.
Yeah. Well, he was drunk when he freed the slaves. He didn't know what he was doing.
That's what it was.
Yeah. He's like, I did what? It's a joke. It's a joke.
Anyways, we thought we'd bring you this. This is our non-review Wednesday. I just gave that name.
And if there's any Joyner Lucas fans who are watching this, let me make something perfectly clear. I am not an Uncle Tom. I am not a sellout. I love this country. And are there some bad things? Are there some racist people? Yes, there are some racist people. But keep in mind, they come in all colors. It is not just akin to white people. It is akin to black people. It's akin to all people who have that sin in them to dislike people for whatever reason it may be. But I also know in this country, you can do whatever you set your mind to. And I wish somebody would give me some quantitative examples of this systemic racism that I'm being plagued with. I understand you guys saw our last video where I got out of yet another ticket and pulled over by a white cop. He had a shotgun or a gun attached to his bike. And I'm here today to tell you that I came out unscathed. We shook hands. We said hello. He said, hey, have a good day. And that has been my experience.
Yeah.
So far.
And everybody has different experiences, but again, somebody talked to us about that episode again, and it was about the Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter. And I brought up Tony Timpa, and of course they never answered the actual question. They probably never heard of Tony Timpa. Those of you know. So anyway, we thought we'd bring this to you. I know this is some of you love this content, and some of you just say, just do music, guys. But we're going to do a little bit of everything.
Yes. And I'll end with this. I was in Florida last year. I was in Florida for a few days. It was great. It was awesome. I didn't have any trouble. So I don't know what the head of the NAACP is talking about. He says, don't go to Florida, black people. Don't turn, run.
I think I heard that the president of NAACP that quoted that. Guess where he lives?
Does he live in Florida?
He lives in Florida.
We haven't said hypocrisy in a long time. Oh, the hypocrisy. My goodness.
They're all owned by the government, the Democratic Party. Yes. It's just silly.
Yes. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. I should have said at the beginning, make sure you like, subscribe, but ring that bell. If there's any Ren viewers who are watching, 200,000 of you watched our high Ren video. If just half of you would hit subscribe. We hit our 100,000 goal. Brian can get his plaque to hang here in our studio, and things will be great. Hit subscribe. You don't have to watch every video. Just do it. Make that my reparations.
You know I'm cutting all that out anyways. Because do the endings faster.
Right.
All right. Good filler. Now I'm going to do Tom's.